Good morning and welcome to Newsmakers. I'm Chris May. Twice in this decade, a New Jersey governor has left office early and the Senate president has become governor. Since then, voters in the Garden State have amended the Constitution in which a lieutenant governor would fill the vacancy. Dr. Frank Esposito is running with independent gubernatorial candidate Christopher Daggett. He is the distinguished professor of history at Kean University and also served as its interim president. The Democrat and Republican candidates for lieutenant governor have been invited to appear on separate broadcasts. In the meantime, Doctor, thank you for being with us this morning. You are an educator by trade. Why make the leap into the political arena?
Well, I think the times are such that it really demands people with a fresh approach to the political climate and to the challenges facing New Jersey. So I think one of the advantages that Chris Daggett brings is that he has been in the private sector. He understands how business works. He understands the economic challenges. And I think what I bring is an educational perspective, because that has been my career. It's been 38 years in education. And I realize the link, as does Chris Daggett, between the economy and education. And that's something we want to emphasize. And
I do want to talk about that. For you personally, though, the historical value of possibly becoming the first lieutenant governor in New Jersey, what does that mean to you?
It is not lost on me, because one of the things I teach is history of New Jersey. So I know it's a very significant event having a lieutenant governor. And I think it's an important step for New Jersey. We've had acting Senate presidents acting as governor in the past, and while I think that's generally worked out well, good people were serving, I think this is a much more systematic and a better way to go, to have someone who works with the governor on a day-to-day basis, who has a role in government with the governor to step in.
Let's talk a little bit about politics. Running as independents, you and Mr. Daggett might be considered long shots. The latest Quinnipiac poll on the race had Christie at 47%, Corzine at 38%, and Daggett at 8%. On the other hand, you have qualified for public financing to the tune of about $700,000, which is rare for an independent candidate. So clearly there is an appetite for your ticket out there. What do the two of you offer as independents that the major party candidates can't deliver for the people of New Jersey?
Well, 46% of the registered voters in New Jersey are registered independent. So I think one thing we bring is a different perspective. We are not emboldened or tied to political parties. We don't come in with a prescribed political agenda that's party related. We don't have any political alliances that are going to prevent us from doing the right thing. So I think we come in with kind of a fresh approach to governing. This is my first foray into the political world, although I've been in academic politics, which is sometimes just as difficult, I think, as politics in the real world, so to speak. But I think what we bring is a freshness of approach. We're going to look at problems and make hard decisions. And I think one thing that's been clear in the last few years is that a lot of hard decisions still remain to be made in terms of the economy and how to deal with the business climate in New Jersey.
You would be wading into a host of challenges. In Trenton, there's an $8 billion deficit. Taxes are skyrocketing. How do you go about getting New Jersey's fiscal house in order?
We will focus immediately on reducing the cost of government, which is the greatest challenge New Jersey faces. We have enormous obligations, financial obligations as a state, that if the same pattern continues in the very near future, New Jersey is very close to a bankruptcy kind of situation. It's a very serious economic deficit we face. And of course we have long-range existing pension obligations, health care obligations that we want to maintain, and we have an obligation to maintain those to people who've retired. So there's an enormous cost, but we have to really look at reducing the costs of government, reducing programs that we don't need. We need to really look at trimming down the pension benefits, particularly of new people coming into the system, not of those people who are in the system. Because again, we have a moral obligation to those people. We should not go after people who were promised certain benefits by the state and then start to tamper with that. We don't believe in that.
But so pension reform for new employees is on the table. Layoffs, service cuts, is everything on the table?
At this point, everything is on the table. Yeah, we will examine everything except, as I mentioned, the pension, the existing people who are retired. We will not tamper with that. But yeah, everything else we're going to look closely at, because we have to create a climate in New Jersey that begins to rebuild a favorable business environment and begins to recoup what we're losing in the corporate area, where corporations are relocating. Research centers are not functioning the way they once did. We're losing a lot of our research base to other states. So that's got to turn around, and if it doesn't turn around, New Jersey will continue to economically decline.
Mr. Daggett's also talked about reining in property taxes. Can you do that in this economic climate in which we find ourselves today?
It'll take a while to do it, but you can do it. But again, the key to doing it is going to be to reduce those same costs that exist at the county and the local level that are driving up the local taxes. So unless it's done at the state level, the county level, and the local level, it's not going to work as effectively. But the same kinds of questions we're going to ask about the costs of running state government should be asked at the local level too, and we will promote that.
At Kane, you cut $20 million out of the budget there without laying off staff.
Correct.
How are you able to do that, and can you transfer those same principles into state government?
Yes, I think so. For one thing, there was a commitment by me as interim president of Kane not to lay off people, even though we were, during the years of Governor McGreevey, we were facing serious budget cuts. But I came into that position with a commitment that I was not going to harm what I view as the human capital of a university, the programmatic and the faculty. And we were able to do that. It was very difficult to do because what I had to do is a lot of unpleasant cuts. For instance, we didn't allow faculty to travel. We took away something in higher ed called release time, where faculties don't teach a full load and they do other important responsibilities as part of their loading. But we had to wipe that out pretty much. We had to increase class size. We had to begin to look at better time utilization for scheduling of classes. So we did a composite of all those things. And we made it through without layoffs of faculty. And that to me was a combination of a lot of people working together, realizing there's a problem, and people making sacrifices. And as a result, we kept programs together, we kept faculty intact.
New Jersey is certainly not alone in its economic struggles at this point. A lot of states around the country are struggling. But for a lot of people, New Jersey has come to symbolize government at its very worst. How did the state, from your vantage point, get into the predicament that it's in now?
Well, I think it's a combination of kind of a lax, I think, by people in the political establishment. And I think most people who are, in my view, who are elected officials are honest, are hardworking. But there seems to be a climate of kind of insider activity that occurs within government of making political alliances, making deals. And I think that's been something that has been part of New Jersey's history, really. So it's worse now than I've seen over the span of New Jersey history, but we've always seemed to have this kind of ethical problem regarding public officials.
Well, in fact, the latest political scandal, dozens of mayors, assemblymen, even rabbis caught up in a federal corruption case. Chris Daggett has said that it reinforces the need for new leadership. Can the two of you bring more honest, open, and accountable government to Trenton?
Absolutely, and I think the key word is accountable. And staying on top of spending, staying on top of how bills are enacted and what happens with the distribution of funds. I think there has to be very close monitoring of the flow of monies, in particular, that go for programs in Trenton. But I would say, in terms of all of these arrests, that I'm a firm believer too. I know it hits the newspapers fast and people make quick judgments, but I firmly believe people are innocent until they go through the process. And so that's the way I view these 40+ people who've been arrested. That let's see how that judicial process works out. They may not all be guilty of anything. We don't know. Certainly we will wait to see how it plays out. Given the fact, as we mentioned off the top, 2 New Jersey governors have not finished their terms, are you prepared to step in and lead the state in case there is a third? Yes. part of my experience has been managerial experience. At Kean University, when I was leading it, they had a budget of over $102 million. It had employees of about 1,200 total employees. So I'm used to leading a large enterprise, and I would, hopefully it would not have to happen, but if I had to step in, I certainly feel well equipped to do so.
Doctor, thank you for being with us this morning. We'll be following you closely on the campaign trail over these next few months. Our guest on Newsmaker